Today, we are going to start with one more topic, which is included under paper number 5, paper number 9, semester number 5 in organic chemistry. The name of the topic is acids, bases, and non-aqueous solvents. In this topic, we are going to study certain important aspects related to this topic. As now just I have mentioned that this topic is acids, bases, and non-aqueous solvents. So this is a part that we are going to cover in this topic, that is acids, bases, and non-aqueous solvents. For this topic, 8 lectures were allotted. In the beginning, we are going to start with the introduction of the theories of acids and bases, which includes Arrhenius concept and Bronsted-Lowry theory. The concept of Lewis concept, Lux flood concept. Then we are going to study the HSAB concept, that is a hard and soft acids and bases. Then classification of acids, bases as soft, hard, and borderline. Then we are going to study the Pearson's HSAB concept. Then the acid base strength and hard with related to the hardness, softness. So these are the points that we are going to cover in this topic. The chemical reactions of non-aqueous solvents such as ammonia and sulfur dioxide, those are to be shown on blackboard. So I shall discuss the theoretical part related to this topic. Now, as we know that, just I would like to show you. Yes. So in the beginning of this topic, we shall study the Arrhenius concept of acids and bases. Arrhenius acid can be defined as any substance that when dissolved in water increases the concentration of hydronium ion, which is a positively charged species. Sometimes this is also known as a hydroxonium ion, that is H3O plus. Based on this, Bronsted and Lowry, they have defined that the acid is a substance which is a proton donor. According to this concept, the Lewis acid is nothing but an electron acceptor species. So Arrhenius showed that any substance that when dissolved in water increases the concentration of hydronium ion, while Bronsted and Lowry concept that shows that acid is a proton donor and Lewis acid is an electron acceptor. According to this Arrhenius concept, the bases can be defined as any substance that when dissolved in water increases the concentration of hydroxide ion, that is OH minus. According to Bronsted-Lowry concept, a base can be defined as it is a species that accepts the protons, and the Lewis acid, it is an electron donor. So exactly reverse definitions were possessed by these acids and bases. Now, I would like to highlight the solvents which are used under the types of solvents. That is what we call as the classification of solvents. Solvents may be classified in a number of ways. All the attempts of their classifications are based on the particular physical and or the chemical properties. Based on this, the solvents can be classified into four different groups. One is known as a protophilic solvents. Second is a protogenic solvents. The third is a amphiprotic solvents. And fourth is a aprotic solvents. The first, that known as a protophilic solvent, it is almost basic in nature. It has a tendency to accept the proton, as just now I have mentioned. For example, ammonia, N2H4, and all amines, they come under this class. The second class is known as a protogenic solvents, where these solvents are almost acidic in nature and hence are known as the protogenic solvents. They have a tendency to release proton. The best known examples of these protogenic solvents are HF, H2SO4, HCN, acetic acid, and ethyl alcohol. These are the notable examples under protogenic solvents. The third type is known as amphoprotic solvents. Amphoprotic solvents are nothing but these have the tendency either to release or either to release protons depending upon the nature of reacting substances. So here the release of protons that depends upon the nature of reacting species. For example, water and the lower alcohols, these are the best known examples under amphiprotic solvents. The fourth type is aprotic solvents. Aprotic solvents are also known as a non-protonic solvents. The characteristic feature of this type is that these aprotic type of solvents, they have a tendency neither to release proton nor to accept proton. So these are the solvents, they do not possess any property to release or to gain or to accept any proton. The best known examples of this is C6H6, CaCl3, CCl4, and SO2. These are the examples under this class. So the non-aqueous solvents can be conveniently classified into these four groups: protophilic, protogenic, amphiprotic, and aprotic solvents. In case of protogenic solvents, that is the second type just now I mentioned, these are the solvents are those which carry hydrogen in their formulae. These solvents undergo atto-ionization, that is a self-ionization. That means they undergo self-ionization to release proton. These solvents undergo atto-ionization to give solvated proton. For example, if we take for instance a neutral species such as H2 plus H2O, it gives H3 plus OH minus. So H3 plus is a solvated proton which is formed during atto-ionization. Another example I would like to mention here is a basic type of protonic solvent. For example, if two ammonia molecules, that is NH3 plus NH3, they undergo atto-ionization so as to give NH4 plus ion plus NH2 OH minus. Here again, NH4 plus ion is also known as a solvated proton, which is formed on account of atto-ionization. Another example with regard to acidic type of protonic solvents, for example, if two molecules of HF, they combine together, when they undergo atto-ionization, they can form the solvated protons such as H2F plus F minus. So in brief, the protogenic solvents are nothing but these are the solvents which undergo atto-ionization, and hence they are producing a positively charged species known as a solvated protons, and hence this is known as a protogenic solvents. The second is known as non-protogenic solvents, or what we call as the aprotic solvents. Here the non-protonic or aprotic solvents are those which may or may not carry hydrogen in their formulae. That means they either contain hydrogen or sometimes they do not contain any hydrogen ion. These solvents are classified into again three different types, which I would like to mention here. First is a non-polar or non-solvating solvents. Second is a polar or atto-ionizing solvents. The third is a polar and coordinating type of solvent. So, aprotic type of solvents are classified into these three different types. I would like to touch all these three subtypes in briefly. First of all, I would like to mention about the non-polar or non-solvating solvents. The characteristic features of these solvents are they are undissociated liquids. They may have zero dipole moment. They do not solvate strongly. Thirdly, they do not influence chemical reactions. For example, CCl4, that is carbon tetrachloride, C6H6, that is benzene. So these are the examples and the characteristics just now I have mentioned. The second subtype under aprotic type of solvent is a polar and atto-ionizing solvents. The characteristic features I would like to mention here that they are capable of atto-ionization, they are highly reactive and are difficult to handle. So a care should be taken while handling such type of polar atto-ionizing solvents. For example, if we take the chemical reaction of twice BrF3, which on atto-ionization gives BrF2 F2 plus, that is a solvated cation, plus BrF4 minus. So this is about the second subtype under aprotic type of solvents. The third subtype under aprotic solvent is a polar and coordinating type of solvent. The characteristic features I would like to highlight here that they are highly polar. Polar means these solvents exhibits a positive and negative pole, having coordinating tendency. That means they coordinate with other ions. They have a donor ion atom like oxygen, sulfur or nitrogen in their molecule. So these solvents contain in their formulae oxygen, sulfur or nitrogen. For example, acetonitrile, what we call as CH3CN, trimethyl sulfoxide, that is CH3 twice SO. The third type I would like to mention here is amphiprotic solvents. The features of this solvent is that the solvents which act both as proton donors, that is acids, and proton acceptors, that is bases. For example, water, alcohol with low molecular mass, glycine. These are the some examples of amphoteric solvents. They are depending upon the nature of solute. For example, H2O on atto-ionization gives, on ionization gives H plus plus OH minus. As it liberates or furnishes H plus ion, that means it donates proton. Hence, it is acidic in nature. H2O plus H plus second reaction. In this reaction, H2 plus, that is proton is accepted, hence it is a basic, which is also known as the proton acceptors. So these are the main characteristic features of this solvent. Now, certain physical properties of these non-aqueous solvents with respect to liquid sulfur dioxide. Solvents other than water are known as a non-aqueous solvents, as we know. So those solvents which are without water are known as a non-aqueous solvents. Liquid sulfur dioxide is a non-aqueous, inorganic, aprotic, acid type, polar and ionizing type of solvent. The solvent characteristics which I would like to mention here, that sulfur dioxide is a water-like solvent. So it is just like water as a solvent. It undergoes attoionization, but its a degree of ionization is much less than that of water. That means it is a less less ionizing solvent, such as water or ammonia. So water ionizes or water ammonia ionizes very freely, but SO2 do not undergo attoionization. If we take for instance one reaction SO2 plus SO2 that gives on attoionization SO2 plus minus, that is known as a thionyl ion, that is a positively charged species, and a sulfite ion, that is SO3 2 minus. These are all about the chemical properties of sulfur dioxide as a solvent. The second part that we have to study is the physical properties of liquid sulfur dioxide. Liquid sulfur dioxide exhibits a boiling point 263 Kelvin. The melting point is 198 and the dielectric constant is 17.3. The solvent action of sulfur dioxide, that is nothing but sulfur dioxide dissolves in alkali metal halides where solubility decreases with iodides to fluorides. The metal oxides, sulfides, hydroxides are insoluble in liquid sulfur dioxide. So this is very important that all metal oxides, sulfides and hydroxides, they are insoluble in sulfur dioxide. Alkali metal sulfides, acetates, cyanides are readily soluble. The amphoteric behavior of this solvent that I would like to mention here, that Zn plus 2 and aluminum plus 3 salts show the amphoteric behavior in liquid sulfur dioxide. Now, the aluminum hydroxide, if we take for instance, it is insoluble in water and in liquid sulfur dioxide, but it readily dissolves either in strong acid or basic solution. Similarly, aluminum sulfite Al2SO4 thrice is found to be insoluble in water and liquid sulfur dioxide. But if addition of either base, that is SO3 2 minus, or an acid SOCl2 thionyl chloride is followed and it dissolves freely. So this is about the solvents. The main important points that I have mentioned here again, that protophilic solvents, they possess high affinity for proton. These are referred as weak acids. That means they do not ionize very freely and normally used as a solute. Strong protophilic solvents, they convert weak acid to a strong acid, known as a leveling effect. And the example that is I have mentioned here, that weak acid, for example, HA, which is abbreviation, plus a basic solvent sulfur, gives a solvated proton, that is SH plus, and a conjugated base of acid is produced. The second type that I have mentioned is a protogenic solvents, which are almost acidic in nature. They readily undergo, they readily donate protons, that is H plus ions, and they are strong protogenic solvents, that is they increase the strength of weak bases. Such solvents which exert a leveling effect on all bases dissolve in them. I have mentioned here the example of weak base. The amphiprotic solvents, they combine protogenic and protophilic properties of solvents. They are able to both donate and accept protons. So amphiprotic solvents, they have capacity to donate as well as to accept the proton. For example, water, alcohol, and weak organic acid. For example, acetic acid shows acidic property by releasing proton. That is, when acetic acid undergoes ionization, it can produce CH3COO minus, that is anionic species, plus H plus, that is a positively charged species, that is a proton is produced. In presence of perchloric acid, which behaves as a strong acid, that is HClO4, acetic acid show a basic property by accepting proton and they produce onium ion. So CH3COOH plus HClO4 that gives CH3COOH2, which is regarded as a onium ion. The fourth type is a protic solvent. These are chemically neutral substances. They are virtually unreactive, that is, they do not show any reactivity. They also do not cause ionization of a solute. No reaction takes place with such type of solvents, and they are used to dilute the reaction mixture. That means they act as a solvent. For example, CCl4, benzene, and toluene. Now, the another part that I would like to mention here, the concept of HSAB, which is known as the hard and soft acids and bases. Now, with regard to the HSAB concept, I would like to share the screen for you that the concept of hard and soft acids and bases. Here, the scientist Goldsmith in the year 1935, he was carrying out the geochemical ore classification such as nickel, zinc, copper ores. They are exclusively found as sulfides, while aluminum and calcium are usually found as oxide and carbonate respectively. So why there is a differences in the occurrence of nickel, zinc and copper as their sulfides, while aluminum and calcium as their carbonates. So here the Lewis concept again come into play, that a Lewis concept of acids and bases involve the covalent interpretation interaction to form a covalent or coordinate type of bond. And as we know, an acid is an electron pair acceptor and base an electron pair donor. Now, in the year 1963, Ralph Pearson introduced the concept of hard and soft acids and bases, that is exclusively known as the HSAB principle. He stated that hard acids prefer to coordinate the hard bases and soft acids prefer to coordinate with soft bases. That means hard and soft interaction was there, and this is found by Pearson, and he has put forward this concept in the form of a HSAB principle. So this is very simple concept was used to rationalize a variety of chemical information as an attempt to unify inorganic and organic reactions. In the year 1983, by Ralph Pearson and Robert Parr, the qualitative definition of HSAB was converted into quantitative one by using an idea of polarizability. That is, a less polarized atom or ion is hard, and a more easily polarized atom or ion is soft. So here this is depicted in the form of a diagrammatic representation of NH3, where nitrogen carries one lone pair of electron. When nitrogen donates on polarization, it donates the pair of electron which is shown here. So in brief, this concept of HSAB, which is put forward in this format, on the top the hard and at the bottom soft is written. Hard means they are less easily polarized species. They are electrostatic or ionic interaction. For example, NaCl, there is a ionic type of interaction, and soft, that is more easily polarized species. That means the species which is uh, easily polarized by a polarizing ion. They are electron sharing or covalent in interaction. Now, if we want to summarize a hard acid and hard base, then we can summarize this as hard acids, they have low polarizability, the same characteristic feature that is exhibited by the hard bases. Hard acids, they have high positive charge. Hard bases, they spread to a donor orbital. Hard acids have very small size and hence they can polarize easily. Hard bases, they have high electronegativity. Hard acids, they do not easily oxidized, while hard bases are easily oxidized. With regard to soft-soft interactions, it is seen that soft acids have high polarizability, which is also in contrast to hard acid, because hard acids have low polarizability while soft acids have high polarizability, and soft bases have high polarizability. Soft acids have low positive charge. Soft bases have they diffuse donor orbital. Here in the above case, they have spread donor orbital. Third, soft acids have large size. Soft bases have low electronegativity. Soft acids are easily oxidized, and soft bases also easily polarized. The HSAB concept is now widely used to explain the stability of compounds, chemical reactions in terms of their mechanisms and pathways. The theory is used to context where a qualitative rather than quantitative description would help in understanding the predominant factors which drive chemical properties reactions. The HSAB concept was put forward in the form of a theory which provides all other factors being equal, soft acids react faster and form stronger bonds with soft bases. That is, soft-soft interaction is there, whereas hard acids interact faster and form stronger bonds with hard bases. That means hard interaction. The classification in the original work was mostly based on the equilibrium constants for the reaction of two Lewis bases competing for a Lewis acid. Now, if we look at the periodic table, In the periodic table, the blue colored boundaries, they indicate these are the elements that tend to form acids. So this whatever portion that is uh, blue colored portion is there that can form or that can tend to form the acids, while here orange colored bordered elements, that is from 5th A, 6th and 7th A, these are the elements nitrogen, phosphorus, oxygen, sulfur, fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine, arsenic, selenium, antimony and tellurium. These are expected to form the bases. Now, the elements which tend to form bases I have enlisted here, that all these elements from this group, 5th, 6th and 7th A, these are the elements, 12 elements. If we look at the electronegativity factors, then electronegativity increases from nitrogen to fluorine, that is from 5th to 7th A group elements. Also, the size of these ions increases from bottom to top. Then the as we move from nitrogen to antimony or from oxygen to tellurium or fluorine to iodine, they can form softer base. But as we move upwards, the harder bases are formed, that is from antimony to nitrogen or tellurium to oxygen or iodine to fluorine. Now, the elements which tend to form acids, the electronegativity that goes on decreasing as we move from right to left of the periodic table, that is from carbon to lithium, and as we move from left to right, that is from cesium to bismuth, softer acids are formed, and as we move from bottom to top, harder acids are formed, and as we move from top to bottom, that is from lithium to cesium, a softer acids are formed. Now this is also I have mentioned, but only the drastic feature that I would like to show here is the purple colored boundary that indicates that the elements molybdenum, tungsten, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, indium, lead, bismuth. These are the purple color boundary indicates they can form the borderline acids and bases. Now here, Pearson has classified the metal ions into class A metal ions and class B metal ions. Class A metal ions, they include all the alkali metals, that is from first A group of the periodic table, that is hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium. Then the class A metal ions, they also include the alkaline earth metals, that is second A group of the periodic table, that is beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium and barium, and the lighter transition metals of higher oxidation states, titanium, chromium, iron and cobalt. They can form a class A metal ions. The class B metal ions, they are heavier transition metals of lower oxidation states. For example, copper in +1 oxidation state, silver, mercury in lower and higher oxidation state, Hg plus, Hg2 plus, palladium and platinum. Now, Pearson has classified the bases depending upon the tendency to form a complex with a class A metal ions. This is shown here, that is from nitrogen to antimony. This tendency goes on decreasing, while the class B metal ions, the tendency of complex formation, that is exactly reverse. That means as we move from nitrogen to antimony, this tendency of complexation increases. Similarly, with oxygen, sulfur, selenium and tellurium, this tendency of complexation decreases. Exactly reverse case is there with class B metal ions, that is oxygen, sulfur, selenium and tellurium. Here this tendency of complexation that goes on increasing. With regard to class A metal ion, again complexation with seventh A group of the periodic table, that is halogens from fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. This tendency goes on decreasing, while the case is not true. In case of class B metal ions, the tendency of complexation that goes on increasing from fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. So here again, we have to take the reference of the size. As we move down the group, size increases. So, and because of this, the complexation tendency of these elements increases. Now here I have enlisted certain class A metal ions and class B metal ions, that is hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, titanium, chromium, iron, and cobalt. The tendency to form complex with class A metal ions just now I have mentioned, and class B metal ions, that is copper in lower oxidation state, that is Cu plus, Ag plus, mercury in two different oxidation states, Hg plus and Hg plus 2, palladium and platinum plus 2. This slide I have already shown. Now here, how the hardness and softness that increases or decreases. If we again take for the groups 5th, 6th, and 7th, nitrogen, antimony, oxygen, tellurium. With regard to this, if we move from fluorine to iodine, the softer acids are formed, and from iodine to fluorine, exactly reverse situation takes place. Harder bases are higher, harder acids are formed, which I have mentioned here. Now, the HSAB concept, that is hard acids prefer to form complex with hard bases, that is hard interaction, and soft acids prefer to form soft bases, that is soft interaction. Here I have mentioned in a nutshell the acids bases with regard to their hardness, borderline acids, and the softness. Again, hard bases, borderline bases, and soft bases I have mentioned here. So the hard acid and hard base, which I have mentioned here, that is elements from first A group of the periodic table, which is commonly referred as alkali metals, while the borderline acids are from the D block elements, particularly from 3D series, that is iron, cobalt, nickel, and copper, zinc, lead, sulfur dioxide, and copper, copper in lower oxidation state. Now, the bases, that is hard bases, fluorine, hydroxyl ion, H2O, and NH3, these are the hard bases. And the borderline bases I have mentioned is a NO2, SO2, SO3 2 minus, and the soft bases as H minus, Cn minus, etc. Now here, some points that we have to remember, that the listings in the tables do not have sharp divide line between them, that is whether it is hard or soft. So the terms hard and soft are relative in nature. Some borderline acids and bases have through within the same category and are not of the same degree of hardness and softness. The examples I have mentioned here, that although all alkali metals in ionic form M plus are hard, the larger, more polarizable cesium plus ion is more softer than lithium. So